Hey, hello there, and welcome to the top 10 game sequels we wanted but didn't get. Let's go! Number 10. Conquer Getter Medieval. Although not a direct sequel, Conquer Getter Medieval would have been a spin-off that had the player take control of Greg the Grim Reaper instead of Conquer. Conquer would have appeared as a guest appearance though. The game would have played similar to the multiplayer of Conquer Live and Reloaded, but instead of machine guns and grenades, the player would have used medieval weapons in medieval locations. Siege Warfare was also added to the game. It was never announced why the game was cancelled, but it did upset fans. Number 9. Time Splitters 4. If you owned a PlayStation 2 while growing up, chances are you would have owned one of the Time Splitters games. The aim of the game is to destroy a race of aliens named Time Splitters who attack humanity throughout different time periods and locations. Currently, 3 Time Splitters games exist. The games are known for their cartoonish first-person action and a map maker that allow players to create maps and then fight in them. In 2000, it was announced that a 4th Time Splitters game was in development. It was said to have been in development for a year before Free Radical Designs went into administration and had to delay the production of it. In 2009, Time Splitters 4 was then declared on hold. Crytek then claimed that the project would be worked on again when there is a high industry demand for the game. In 2012, Crytek announced that Time Splitters 4 was not in development. The series developer, Steve Ellis, said that marketing the game would have been difficult as every publisher that they spoke to said that they didn't know how they were going to advertise and sell the game. Although cancelled, it was announced in 2012 that a group of fans were given permission by Crytek to develop a Time Splitters game, which has now been named Time Splitters Rewind, which is currently being worked on. Alongside this, the rights of Time Splitters were acquired by THQ Nordic on the 15th of August 2018. So we may be seeing a new Time Splitters game in many years to come. It just may not be the same team working on it. Number 8. Fallout 3, a Van Buren edition. We all know of Fallout 3, but did you know that there was actually another version created before the one that we know and love? Well, before Bethesda got their hands on it, Black Owl Studios had already created Fallout and Fallout 2. From screenshots, it can be seen that Van Buren would have had a similar camera style to the first 2 Fallouts, in which it was an aerial view of the character instead of the first person that we're used to. The story would have followed the protagonist, a prisoner, who had the ability to choose whether he is actually innocent or guilty of the crimes he's accused of. The player would have then left the prison after it was attacked and explored the states of Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado in 2253 to find out why it was attacked and what the bigger plan was behind it. As with other Fallout games, there would have been multiple endings for every community and faction that the player interacted with depending on your actions. The game was cancelled on December 8, 2003 due to financial difficulties. This was not Black Owl's first attempt at Fallout 3, as another version was started and unreleased. Although not officially released, there is a playable version of Van Buren somewhere out there on the internet. In 2008, the Bethesda version of Fallout 3 was released. Number 7. Star Wars Battlefront 3. In 2009, Computer and Video Games made the unconfirmed claim that a 3rd Star Wars Battlefront game was in production by Free Radical Design. In the same month, Free Radical Design announced that they had lost the rights to Star Wars. At this point, the game had been in development for a whole 2 years. It was announced another 2 years later by the co-founder of Free Radical Designs, Steve Ellis. Star Wars Battlefront 3 was pretty much complete. The reason for it being cancelled was that LucasArts didn't want to spend a lot of money promoting it. Both land and space combat were to be available, and Hoth, Dantooine and Coruscant were featured in gameplay footage leaked by members of the Free Radical Design team. There is a playable version of the game if using an Xbox 360 developer kit, or modified Xbox consoles using a program called RG Loader. Number 6. Fable 4. In 2004, Fable was released. The player was taken to Albion, in which every choice had a consequence. You could be the hero or the villain, and you could even get married. In 2008, Fable 2 was released, and then in 2010, Fable 3 was released. Each of these games were set years ahead of each other, showing the progression of time with improvements of towns and more lore. Instead of working on Fable 4, Lionhead worked on smaller titles such as Fable the Journey and Fable Fortune. In an interview, the head of Lionhead Studios, Peter Molyneux, said that he wanted at least 5 core Fable games that will continue the story of what happened after Teresa took control of the Spire. Fans also wanted to know what happened to the hero after the events of Fable 3. In 2016, Lionhead Studios closed down, which completely removed our chances of getting a Fable 4 created by them. However, it is highly rumoured that Fable 4 is being created by Playground Games, so we may actually get a Fable 4, just hopefully it's as good as the originals. Number 5. Fez 2. One of the most well-known cancelled game sequels is Fez 2. At E3 in June 2013 in the Indie Game press conference, Fez 2 was announced using a trailer. Just a month later, the game was cancelled during a heated argument on Twitter after the creator, Phil Fish, didn't like the amount of negative publicity he was getting. Fez was a much-loved indie game that allowed players to wear a fez, which gave the player the ability to rotate the camera between 4 2D platforms and collect cubes to restore order to the universe. Not a lot was known about the sequel, but I'm sure it would have been great. Number 4. Super Mario 64 2. Super Mario 64 2 was the working title for the sequel of the 1996 Nintendo 64 game, Super Mario 64. Intended for release in 1999, Super Mario 64 2 had only one demo level created. Although never publicly released, it was intended that Luigi and a rideable Yoshi would have been part of the game. The game was intended to be multiplayer, which can then be assumed that Luigi would have been playable and possibly other characters in the Mario universe. The game was cancelled as the Nintendo 64 DD, a magnetic disk drive for the Nintendo 64, failed to take off. It is possible that features of Super Mario 64 2 may have been taken by later Mario games such as Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy. Number 3. Half-Life 2 Episode 3. The phrase, "a Valve can't count to 3" seems pretty accurate due to the fact that we haven't had a Team Fortress 3, Portal 3, or Half-Life 2 Episode 3. In 1998, the Half-Life series followed Gordon Freeman after the Black Mesa research facility, which he worked at as a theoretical physicist, causes a dimensional rift that allows aliens to invade Earth. From breaking out of the Black Mesa facility to go into the White Forest, Gordon fights soldiers in an attempt to stop the invaders. In 2007, Half-Life 2 Episode 2 ended with a plan on what the characters were going to do. We just didn't get it. It's been rumoured that multiple attempts at Half-Life 3 have been made, but the developers got stuck and didn't know how to continue the story. In 2017, a key writer for Valve, Mark Laidlaw, left Valve and then posted a supposed fanfic online in which Gordon and his allies go to the Antarctic to board the Borealis, a ship that erratically travels through time and space in an attempt to destroy the Combine once and for all. As it has been many years since we've had any announcement about the creation of Half-Life 2 Episode 3, it's sad to say it, but I don't think we'll be getting one. Number 2. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 3. In 2003, we were given Star Wars and Knights of the Old Republic. The player took control of a protagonist who had lost their memory, making their way in the Star Wars universe. While navigating planets, the player had the ability to add new followers to the party and uncover a compelling storyline that makes them think about everything they are doing. With the success of the game, a sequel was created, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 The Sith Lords, which was released in 2004, in which the player again explored the Star Wars universe, attempting to seek out Jedi to fight against the Sith. The storylines of these games were perfectly told and left the players wanting more. Due to the success of its previous games, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 3 was in development. According to the designer, John Stafford, a lot of elements had already been planned. The story, environments, quests, characters and items had already been mostly worked on. The story would have cast the player as the Exile and allowed you to attempt to find Revan. It wasn't announced if the player would have found him, but the story would have been a great conclusion to what happened after the events of the first two games. Although we didn't get a third Knights of the Old Republic game, we did get the MMORPG, The Old Republic, which gives the player some lore on the events of the games. Number 1. A Banjo-Kazooie 3. One of the best games created for the Nintendo 64 was Banjo-Kazooie. Released in 1998, the player got to control the bear and bird duo as they battled against the evil witch Grunty, who had kidnapped Banjo's sister in an attempt to steal her youth. With success, Banjo-Tooie was released in 2000. Again, Banjo and Kazooie go up against Grunty. This time, she has teamed up with her sisters, Minghella and Blobella. Upon release, Banjo-Tooie sold over 3 million copies worldwide. Although never officially released, Footage of a Banjo 3 was shown at Space World 2000 tech demo, in which a video of Banjo, Kazooie and Mumbo are being chased by Grunty up a mountain. The game was set for release for the Nintendo GameCube and Xbox. Although not a lot was known about it, it was rumoured that the story is based around Grunty kidnapping Mumbo in an attempt to gain a new body. In 2002, Microsoft bought Rare, which is likely to be the reason why Banjo 3 was cancelled. A tease was announced for a Banjo 3 in which Banjo attempts to get through a door, finally breaking through the door into a colourful world with notes and honeycombs. It isn't clear if this was a trailer for Banjo 3 or Nuts and Bolts. We did end up with a Banjo 3, a Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts in 2008, but it was completely different to the first two games. It was praised by critics but hated by fans. One day, maybe, we'll get the Banjo game that we deserve. Okay, so that's the top 10 game sequels we wanted but didn't get. Did you agree with this list, or did I miss anything? Let me know. Keep up to date with my content by hitting that subscribe button and enjoy your day. Bye.